He was 27, quiet, hard-working, and the kind of man people often overlooked without realizing it. Every evening he tied the same black apron around his waist, smoothed his hair in the restaurant's reflection glass, and whispered to himself, "Just get through tonight." He wasn't lazy. He wasn't unambitious. Life had simply dealt him a rough hand early. His father passed away when he was 16, his mother fell sick a year later, and college became a dream he folded away like an old photograph. Instead, he worked double shifts at a high-end restaurant in downtown Chicago, sending most of his paycheck home to support his mom's medication. Customers rarely noticed him. To them, he was just the waiter. A voice that said, "Yes, sir," and "Of course, ma'am." A pair of hands delivering plates. A shadow that appeared when they needed something and disappeared when they didn't. But Daniel noticed everything. He noticed the couple celebrating their anniversary who held hands like teenagers. He noticed the tired single mother counting dollars before ordering. He noticed businessmen laughing too loudly to hide their stress. And he noticed the rich, especially the ones who treated kindness like it was beneath them. That Friday night started like any other. The restaurant buzzed with soft jazz music and the clinking of glasses. Chandeliers cast warm light across marble floors, and the smell of butter, garlic, and grilled steak filled the air. Daniel had already served 3 tables when the hostess approached him with a polite but nervous smile. "Table 12 is yours," she whispered. "They asked for our best server." Daniel nodded. "Got it." But as he approached the table, he felt something shift. 4 guests sat there. 2 men in expensive suits and 2 women dressed in designer gowns. Their watches gleamed. Their voices were loud. Their laughter sharp. The kind of laughter that wasn't joyful but superior. Daniel greeted them warmly. "Good evening. Welcome. My name's Daniel and I'll be taking care of you tonight." One of the men didn't even look up. "Water. Sparkling. And don't take forever." "Of course, sir." The second man smirked. "And make sure the glasses are spotless. Last place we went to couldn't even manage that." Daniel nodded politely. "Absolutely." He returned quickly with their drinks, placing each glass gently. But the moment he set the last one down, the woman in red snapped her fingers. "Excuse me," she said, tilting her glass. "There's a smudge." Daniel leaned closer. There was no smudge, just condensation from the cold glass. "I'm very sorry about that," he said calmly. "I'll replace it right away." As he reached for it, the first man chuckled. "You'd think for these prices they could hire people who know what they're doing." The table laughed. Daniel smiled softly, though his chest tightened. He'd heard worse. He always did. Working in fine dining meant learning to swallow pride along with insults. He replaced the glass and took their orders. They spoke over him, corrected his pronunciation of dishes he already knew, and once even waved him away mid-sentence like he was a buzzing insect. Still, Daniel remained patient. Because he needed this job. Because his mother needed her medicine. Because dignity sometimes meant endurance. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The group continued making remarks about his accent, his posture, even the way he walked. None of it was loud enough for other tables to hear clearly, but loud enough for Daniel to feel every word like a pebble thrown at glass. At one point, the man with the silver tie said, "You know, I always wonder why people settle for jobs like this. Don't you want more out of life?" Daniel met his eyes respectfully. "Everyone's path is different, sir." The man smirked. "That's a polite way of saying you gave up." The table laughed again. Daniel nodded once and stepped away. But something inside him didn't break. It steadied. Because they didn't know him. They didn't know that after every shift he studied business courses online. They didn't know he spent nights reading books about entrepreneurship instead of watching TV. They didn't know he had a notebook hidden under his mattress filled with restaurant ideas, menus, themes, designs. They didn't know he dreamed not of serving tables, but of owning them. They saw a waiter. They didn't see the future. When their main courses arrived, Daniel served them flawlessly. Plates aligned perfectly. Napkins adjusted. Drinks refilled before they asked. Despite their behavior, he treated them like royalty. Halfway through dinner, another man entered the restaurant, older, dressed simply with kind eyes. The manager rushed to greet him personally and led him to a nearby table. Staff whispered quietly. Clearly, he was important. Daniel didn't stare. He just continued working. But the older man noticed him. He watched the way Daniel handled the difficult table. The patience. The composure. The professionalism that never cracked even when mocked. After dessert, the rich group requested the check. Daniel brought it promptly. The man with the silver tie opened it, glanced down and scoffed. For this service? Unbelievable. He tossed the folder back onto the tray. No tip, he said loudly. Maybe that'll motivate you to improve. The women smirked. One even whispered, maybe he should try community college. They stood and left, their laughter trailing behind them like perfume. For a moment Daniel stood still. Not angry, not embarrassed, just quiet. Then he exhaled, picked up the check folder, and prepared to clear the table. That's when he heard a voice behind him. You handled that beautifully. Daniel turned. It was the older gentleman from the nearby table. Thank you, sir, Daniel said politely. I've owned restaurants for 35 years, the man continued. I've trained thousands of employees. And I can tell you something, grace under pressure can't be taught. You either have it, or you don't. Daniel nodded, unsure what to say. The man reached into his jacket and handed him a business card. If you're ever interested in managing instead of serving, call me. Daniel looked down. His eyes widened. The name on the card belonged to one of the largest restaurant groups in the country, a company that owned luxury dining chains across multiple states. I don't know what to say, Daniel whispered. Say you'll think about it, the man smiled. Talent shouldn't stay hidden. He left quietly. Daniel stood there, heart pounding. That night he didn't just finish his shift. He stepped into a new future. Months passed. Training. Interviews. Sleepless nights. Doubts. Hope. And then one day, Daniel stood in front of a mirror again. But this time he wasn't tying an apron. He was adjusting a tailored suit. Because he wasn't a waiter anymore. He was the new general manager of a newly opened luxury restaurant downtown.